Anurag, for joining us today.
Lovely. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We've had a quick catch-up outside briefly. What I wanted to start with is, what is the, I mean, you've been an experienced CSR practitioner since it started in India or even before that. How have you seen CSR evolve? And, so far, right from it started or where it is now?
No, there are some areas where we have evolved hugely. We have completely transformed the landscape. There are some areas where we have not moved an inch there. And there are areas where we have moved backward. So some of the areas where I guess where we have transformed the whole space is where we started looking at CSR more as a subject where which has the potential to not just bring in change at the community level, but also has a huge role to play in enhancing the reputation of the corporate there. CSR is much more than social development work, and this is something that people understood. And there is huge amount of investment that people are making on shared value concept, people are making on strategic investment, people are creating awareness at the board level, bringing leadership connect there, ensuring that it becomes something which is available all across the organization there. And that's where we have moved miles and miles there.
Right.
Areas where we have not moved are areas where we are still not investing on building the capacities of our team to manage the changing landscape there. So our team still remains where it used to be in 2014, 2015 or so. You will not find many takers for if an agency like this organizes a training program on shared value concept or blended finance or outcome funding or impact funding. You will not have many corporates who raise their hand to say that, hey, let's invest some money in that particular thing. Develop the capacities of my team to really understand the nuances of how things are changing there. We have not moved in there. Where we have moved down is the quality of CSR heads that I'm seeing these days. And I'm being very candid. When I say there are, I'll say, huge space available for us to enhance the quality of people who are coming in there. I have a problem somewhere. I'm being, I know this is a safe place. This is a place where this is CSR heads, sustainability heads are around. I have a problem when you don't treat CSR as a subject which requires some amount of seriousness there. I have a problem when people think that any engineer, any HR guy, any branding guy, any comm guy, anyone can handle sustainability or CSR. I have a problem there. I have a huge problem when you think that any failed individual in any failed business unit can become a successful CSR head, so let's place him or place her there. I have a problem there. And this is where I feel we have not moved, we have gone down because suddenly we realize कि अगर इसका कहीं भी कुछ नहीं कर सकते तो CSR में डाल दो. And CSR में डाल दो का मतलब है कि आप ठीक जो एक ज़माने में होता नहीं था कि अपन सारे कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जामिनेशन दे दिया कहीं कुछ नहीं हुआ तो लॉयर बन जाओ अगर वहाँ पर भी नहीं हुआ तो सोशल वर्क कर लो और अंत में वी यूज्ड टू गेट दी कचरा इन कबाड़ देयर इन दी सोशल वर्क के अंदर में सो इट वाज नॉट द फर्स्ट चॉइस दैट पीपल यूज्ड टू मेक देयर that has changed now. I've seen many bright students are coming in there. But I don't see that particular change happening at the CSR head level. And that in number of ways influencing the kind of project that they are picking up.
Correct.
Yeah. So these are three broader areas where I feel areas where we moved, areas where we have not moved, and areas where we have gone down rather than moving up.
Yeah. No, thank you. I think those are extremely relevant points, and that's really the key change we need if CSR has to play a key role, right? I'm somebody who's futuristic and understands this. From the perspective of, specifically looking at, and we were discussing this earlier in terms of, filling that finance gap. We've talked about multiple ways of, and you gave some examples of what CSR is already doing. And do you want to give us a bit more elaboration on, the role of CSR in filling that gap of incubates and basically from a private equity angle perspective?
No, this is very important question. And there are, I know there are few people sitting in this particular room are experimenting with this particular approach. We, as a CSR functionaries, can't fund businesses.
Correct.
And the moment you move into blended finance, moment you move into I'll say impact funding, it's all about money that is going to come back. So I cannot fund that particular thing with CSR, but what we can certainly do, where we can use our fund to strengthen the larger ecosystem of blended finance there. Because blended finance is not something which happens at or happens in isolation there. You have the whole spectrum of things that you need to do there. So number of CSR or number of corporates as part of their CSR is funding incubators there. Funding number of ideas there, ideas which have the potential to get developed into product, developed into solution which then can be scaled up there. So we are putting in our money to what is called number of ideas, a number of solutions which have the potential to get sharpened up in a way that can be used by multiple people, which in number of ways means that I'm absorbing the risk for the venture fund or the investors to come in there and pick up the best idea to fund and take it to the scale there. So in that particular sense, in the whole ecosystem, I'm taking care of everyone and then identifying the best one or the strongest one or the most suitable one and then handing over that entity to the funders as part of the impact funding to fund them. And this again requires, I'll say, some amount of mindset change in the way you'll present this particular case to the board. And that's where it's very imperative to get someone who is strong enough to stand in front of the board, subcommittee of your board, to what is called influence them to fund activities like this. Because largely the board will ask you to fund स्कूल चला लो, हॉस्पिटल चला लो, किसी को कुछ दे दो, कोई कंस्ट्रक्शन कर दो, because that's the most non-risky assignment there.
Right.
There's a huge amount of compliance-driven CSR that we have created now. So all the board members are scared now.
Yeah.
So they want to get into something which is risk-free investment there.
Yeah.
So they'll be more than happy if you tell them that I'm making 6 classrooms there which will take care of all the CSR fund of ours. They'll be saying, okay, kar lo. But you need to have, I'll say, wisdom in you to go and stand up in front of your board to say that, hey, chief, I've done this. I've achieved all the KPIs there.
Yeah.
Allow me to do some fun with the 30% left there in the fund to do something interesting there, which will give you huge amount of satisfaction at the end of the day there.
Yeah.
Because I always tell people that जब बूढ़े हो जाएंगे तो कौन सी कहानियाँ बच्चों को सुनाएंगे अपने पोते पोतियों को. We are not going to tell them about a story that I'm sitting here and talking to you. Or I came to this particular workshop and did this particular thing. I need to have a story which is going to excite them. Stories about how I changed the character of the board. How I made board to fund something which they were not funding earlier.
Yeah.
And these are the stories that CSR head should create in their resume there. We are not creating that. We are just creating some schools, some labs and some skill centers there.
No, absolutely. And I think one of the, building on this topic, the other discussion was also that so far in India, a lot of CSR funding has been going to, there's an imbalance, let's put it that way. There are certain states that get most, and there are certain states that have been really left behind. And hence, that's a narrative as well. So in many ways, the CSR agenda needs to be aligned with the country's agenda and where the need really is, and where the needle can be moved, where, let's just say, the highest social return on investment can be. So any specific recommendations that you would have, maybe to the board members or to CSR heads specifically who have the ability to do this?
Yeah, because and we all have committed that mistake. I also committed that mistake. I'm still committing that particular mistake of what is called working in the area where we have our operations. And this particular mistake is more conscious one because our aim is also, because I work with IT company and we have a total strength of around 185,000 people working in India only. And out of this particular number, 90% of them will be less than 30 years of age. And their worldview is limited to 14-inch screen that they sit in front of. Friday parties, Saturday shopping, Sunday afternoon siesta, Monday morning cribbing about their bosses,
Yeah.
increment, no promotion, the cafeteria food is bad, nahi banda aaya, nahi bandi aayi hai,
Yeah.
that discussion.
Yeah.
It's a very, very, I'll say, unrealistic worldview that they have. For us, CSR is all about taking them to the field and telling them how privileged you are,
Yeah.
how blessed you are, how your life is full of premium there. The shoes that you're throwing because it has a simple scratch there are kids who are running and dying for that particular shoe itself there.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why I'm doing my CSR in the urban cities there. But full mark to number of banks who are there in remote areas, number of FMCG companies who are there in I'll say remote areas, businesses, yes,
Yeah.
but that's what the share value is all about. They are doing it, but we need to do more. And Bihar is not getting funding. Eastern UP is not getting funding. Eastern UP only Varanasi is getting funding.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why Varanasi is getting the funding. Northeast is not getting the funding. Himachal is not getting the funding.
Yeah.
Many of the other states are not getting the funding. Even within Maharashtra, only Mumbai, Pune are getting the funding.
Correct.
Nasik is getting the funding, but Vidarbha is not getting the funding.
Yes.
If you go to Bangalore, Karnataka, you will have Bangalore getting the funding. You may get Mangalore getting the funding, but you will not get Raichur getting the funding there.
Yeah.
And this particular mindset needs to change somewhere to say that, hey, I'll fund my investment into those areas where the funding is needed. But the problem also is that government is allocating us or allowing us to only use 5% of the money as overhead there. उस 5% के अंदर में मैं खाएगा क्या, मैं नहाएगा क्या? So I do not have money to use it for my travel to go and monitor the project. It's just like cutting the check, giving it to someone, and then praying to the God कि भैया वहाँ पर काम करा दो यार. Because you won't be able to monitor that particular project. I won't be able to go to Northeast 4 times, 3 times a year to see the progress of that particular work because I do not have the overhead to manage it.
Right.
Imagine how I'll pay the salaries of CSR team and overhead and all the other costs if I start doing my intervention in remotest possible areas there. And that's where our mindset, that's where government approach on this particular thing need to change. And they need to remove that particular first line which is there in the CSR rule which says that you should invest in a preferred area of investment should be immediate periphery of your companies, factories, offices there. They need to just remove that particular thing.
Yeah. No, absolutely. To build on this further, I mean, and to your point of employee volunteerism and basically taking them, we've seen in the last few years specifically, I mean, the trend started with COVID that many started volunteering virtually. What is your take on the impact that has? Has that really increased the number of employee volunteer hours, or like where do you see this going?
No, it has. We did. I used to call it no feet on the street. And that's how I branded it within my own community to say that, hey, let's do this particular work. And we did it during COVID. We formed group to identify कि खाना कहाँ मिलेगा, दवाई कहाँ मिलेगी, oxygen cylinder कहाँ पे है, बाकी कुछ कहाँ पे. That's where we made these tiger taste the blood there. And then they started moving into a number of things. But I also realized that CSR is not something that you can do in front of computer only. You need to go there, smell it. You need to. I always say कि बिरयानी का स्वाद खाने से ज़्यादा उसको सूंघने में है. You need to have the smell there. तभी आपको मजा आता है. Then you start having that particular thing. But in certain situations, when you are looking at scale, when you are looking at mentoring, where I get a resource sitting at Delhi, and I need to connect this individual to a student who is at Raichur, then this guy is not going to travel, or this individual is not going to travel to Raichur, not the Raichur person is going to come to Mumbai or Delhi. I need to connect them using digital medium there, and that is helping in a number of ways. That is also enabling some of the people who are not very confident going out open and doing things there. So they are using the computer, they are using the connectivity to reach out and providing their skills and expertise and the knowledge that they have. But the only thing missing there is that when you go there, you start start getting the actual feel of the whole problem there. So the digital part is good for those people who have already tasted it,
Right.
who are aware of the reality there. Then it becomes a lot more easier for them to what is called do that digital volunteering there. For people who have not done this earlier, they need to go to the space, see that particular community, understand the reality that they are having there, and then start doing some of these things. And I've seen tremendous impact in terms of numbers and engagement during COVID, post-COVID, through digital, where number of groups who were not earlier becoming part of some of these work, they started doing this particular thing because they suddenly realized that, hey, I can teach a student using the my smartphone also, and that student is also willing to use their smartphone because their parents were earlier like कि फ़ोन छूने का नहीं, फ़ोन छूने का नहीं, फ़ोन छूने का नहीं, was
Right.
passing on the phone कि अब तो पढ़ ले, अब तो पढ़ ले, अब तो पढ़ ले. So that's the change that has happened there.
Yeah.
अपने बच्चों को अपन बोलते थे ना कि स्क्रीन टाइम नहीं होना, स्क्रीन टाइम नहीं लेना, don't watch TVs, आंखें खराब हो जाएंगी. And we were the one who started forcing our kids to study 4 hours, 5 hours in front of a laptop itself. So
Yeah.
things change. And our approach also changed. And in a number of ways, digital volunteering has taken a very, very positive shape there. But I always also advise people that don't jump to digital.
Right.
You should always have a hybrid mode where sizable amount of work for the first comers should be through physical, and then gradually move them to digital, because that will give you the skill that you're seeking. And that's where from Capgemini, let me sell some of the work that we are doing at Capgemini. That's the reason why we are right now have close to around 93,000 employees out of this 1,85,000 people who are part of the CSR journey that we are doing. And by and large, that's the biggest number that anyone can talk about
Yeah.
in terms of employees raising their hand to contribute in this particular work. And that's where we use both the digital and the physical work
Yeah.
very smartly, I'll call it.
Great, great. I just have one last question, and then we'll open it up to the audience. That would be, moving forward between now and say in the next 20 years, India needs to focus on not just climate climate finance. The numbers I threw are very large numbers for overall transition, but a key component is climate mitigation and adaptation. The rural areas will see they already are witnessing significant impact from climate change, the smallholder farmers and the other communities. What do you feel is the role that CSR and philanthropy should play if they're not already playing? Or what is your key points to them for the next 20 years to make sure that the tier 3, tier 4 areas are also transitioning and having a fair share of financing for climate adaptation?
It has two parts of this particular question. One is that there's a need to build a greater awareness within this particular community on climate change. Because many of us do not really understand. We understand the overall concept, but we do not understand the nitty-gritty of the whole thing. So we understand this as at 35,000 feet above, but we need to really understand this at a very micro level to understand the differential impact that this is having on people, the ability of community to manage, mitigate this, the ability of community to absorb this particular thing, the ability of businesses to manage and mitigate and absorb this particular thing, and how and why and what should be my role in managing this particular thing. And my role will have again multiple color and multiple phases attached to this particular thing. I will not even look at 20 years span. I'll say let's start with 6 month, 1 year, 3 year span, and then let's look at what all we should be doing in there to ensure that we create the awareness, we create the models, and then we start looking at scaling up there. And there is, I'll say, number of corporates. Let's give credit to their board. Businesses may be also one of the reasons why they are agreeing to and signing it off on sustainability targets there, net zero target, carbon neutrality there. And there is willingness to invest on this particular thing. What is needed there is to give them sustainability offerings in a very simpler term, which will enable them to understand that, hey, these are the options available to me. But before that, we need to also give them offerings on awareness, offering on
Right.
creating what is called the circle that they require to really help them manage the operation there. I'll give you one small example. I'm still looking for a carbon credit manager there. And I'm still looking for people who understand this particular subject in a very, very intensive manner.
Yeah.
This is a new subject there. It requires a very different kind of treatment there. It has, I'll say, 70% business sense and 30%, I'll say, community sense there.
Yeah.
And this is, in a way, contrast to the kind of CSR professional that we require. We require someone with 80% community sense and then 20% business sense to be a good CSR guy. But for carbon-related businesses, you require someone who will have 70% business sense, 30% community sense to do this particular work. And these are few things that we need to ensure that is done to be ready to manage some of the work that you're talking about. And at the board level, again, look at the way you'll present.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Great. Thank you. With this, we open up to questions. There's one in the back. There.
Hi. Just a question. So you raised a point around.
You'll have to introduce yourself, Chief.
My name is Dhruv. I work with Snowcap. And my question is, you mentioned about the fact that the funding is not really sufficient to always go track and monitor these projects. So in terms of the kind of explorations you've done, are there solutions about tracking now that there are technologies that are available, which, and I assume for scaling up all the transition in the whole financial space, right? The new products that will come up, they'll always be linked to some kind of monitoring mechanism, which will require to be, I assume, foundationally technology driven. So are there such opportunities that exist, and what, in your view, could be the challenges at the moment?
So there are number of, I'll say, and every month at least one of them are coming up, a new one are coming up to say that I have a new digital marketplace, not digital marketplace, digital MIS and reporting system that we have developed there to track, manage, to do this particular thing. Unfortunately, none of them are, and I have explored with multiple of them. I'm someone who started using the digital MIS since 2016 onwards. So I'm sitting in 2023 right now. None of them gives you a model which can manage traffic, use traffic, which can manage, which has a kind of maturity level to give you answers that you're seeking there. And third is our NGOs are smarter lot there. If you don't go there to the field to actually see whether things are happening or not, they can create a narrative which will make you feel that you've created an ideal world there, but that world will exist only on Netflix and on Prime Videos. It won't be the actual one. So you'll have to go there. You bring in the tech there, you let the tech run in there, but you'll have to supplement that with your physical presence and reporting there. Because somewhere I always feel that there is some need to make this particular thing as a serious business there. CSR cannot, should not, must not happen sitting in your in the office. CSR should happen outside the your cubicle there. And for that, you need to go and understand the whole thing there, because what people will narrate to you will be something different, or they'll narrate from their own comfort level. They will not narrate the actual reality, and you need to go and understand that particular reality. And that's where I always say that you use the digital, which is still, I'll say, not ready to manage the operation that many of the biggies in this particular room are doing. But you'll have to add that, or you need to complement that with your physical visit also, to bring in amount of seriousness there. Otherwise, seriousness hota nahi. I can give you off the record, bahar nikloge, to I can take a master class on कि आप इसको धोखा कैसे दे सकते हो. And I'm aware of this particular thing. That's the reason why I always say that I need to go to the field to see, and then only I'll say that yes, this is happening there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
This another question. And then there's two over here. And then we can.
She was the second.
Hi, my name is Dipti, and my question for you is, you mentioned that the policy says that only 5% of your expenses, can be used for administration. So in that case, if it is increased, will it not dilute the objective of the CSR funding?
No, it won't. It won't. NGOs charge 10%. उनको 10% चाहिए, मुझे 5% चाहिए. ऐसे कैसे चलेगा?
Okay.
And that's one. Second is that if I don't have people to manage, for example, you will be surprised that many of my staff, many of my colleagues are getting, or part of my CSR team, they get lesser salary than the amount of money that we pay to NGO workers there. Okay? There are times when these guys are sitting and negotiating with the NGO partner, and they'll be coming to my room to tell me, Anurag, should I resign and join this particular NGO itself? Yeah? Because you are okay to give them more money, but you are not okay to give me more money there.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's the problem there, because there they'll charge all these salaries, and then aakhri mein jodte hain 10% management fees. We are okay with that particular logic. But we are not, and if you look at your overall expenditure on NGO management is around 25% or so, or more than 25%. And in our case, you are like 5%, and 5% के अंदर में you have added everything. ये भी कर लो, ये भी कर लो, ये भी कर लो, बाद में हर घर तिरंगा भी कर लो, नमामि तटे भी कर लो, बाकी कुछ भी सब कुछ कर लो, उसी 5% अंदर में कर लो. So one need to also understand the practical realities. The people who are ethical players will find it very difficult to do it. People who are not ethical players, there are multiple ways of doing things.
Yeah.
And for us, it becomes very difficult. For EY, I'm sure it becomes very difficult, because being a European company, there is number of, I'll say, checks there. And the moment मैं आधा % भी इधर जाएगा, मेरे को कम से कम 10 audit का query आ जाएगा मेरे पास में.
If I can just add to that. So the truth is both your questions are interrelated in many ways, right? Because, and I fully resonate with the view. I'll tell you, the biggest issue, and this is a mindset issue in all our heads and the overall business sector, that CSR teams and to some extent sustainability teams, the salary levels are way lower. And because like I said, I've done a little bit of everything. So I had moved to philanthropy. I had to take a 40% pay cut to do that. Why? Because I want to do it. So if you want to do some social good and if you want to have an impact, then you be ready to live at lower means because you've taken that choice.
She made her money and then she took that particular call. अब मैं समाज सेवा करेगी.
So the truth is, we have to change that mindset. And there are certain countries, like for example, Singapore, right? I mean, there is very little difference between pay packages regardless of if you're doing social good, social impact, and the others. You get to attract the best talent when you do that. Otherwise, like he pointed out earlier, that you will only get people who are not able to make it anywhere else to come and do that work. So we have to consciously as a society make that choice. And two, the only way to manage within the 5% is if the technology for impact measurement is a lot more evolved. Right now, it's at such an early stage that if we're spending so much time going to the field and verifying the impact, we're not able to allocate it to the other stuff. So both go hand in hand, and we have to see that impact. Yeah. We'll take one last question. I know you had one. Oh, yes. She has the mic. Sorry, and then we'll come to you.
No, there was that lady who's having she gets the chance because she has raised her hand. Aapka bhi aayega number. Don't worry, we'll get one more.
Hi, my name is Dusha Manglani. Firstly, great candidness that I think that this whole discussion got to the table. My question actually was more, this is something that Google couldn't answer for me. I wanted to understand that when it comes to the CSR law, the government of India has prescribed few sectors that you can invest in. So that's either sanitation or poverty or education. Does environmental initiatives come anywhere within this currently? So initiatives like recycling or offsets, is this something that you can claim under your CSR budget? Or if not, then do you see like a corporate environmental responsibility soon coming into the ecosystem and that becomes a different thing?
No, if I answer this, will you then go back and tell the world that Anurag answered something that Google didn't answer? Okay, let me
I'll
answer
update it
that.
there and add your
Okay,
name there.
lovely. The point is that if you look at Schedule 7, and Schedule 7 was made by someone, I always say that it was made by someone, I don't get offended, made by someone, Brahman there, who will say कि जजमान जो बोलेंगे सब कुछ लिखा हुआ है इसके अंदर में. तो उसमें they have a last line which says rural development, and there उसको उसके ऊपर में I think the cake is urban development. So rural development and urban development के बीच में कुछ छूटा नहीं है. There is nothing that you can't do if you place it properly there. On the offset thing, you can't do it through CSR.
Yeah.
Because it says very clearly in other clauses that you cannot use CSR fund for the benefit of the company there. Offset primarily is the benefit that will get accrued by the company or accrued to the company there. For example, people will do offset it, show it their company as carbon neutral or net zero there, to go to their investors saying that, hey, I am doing much, much better there, which in a way, you are polishing your company with the offset polish ke saath mein, which is funded by CSR, which you can't do it as per the law there. But what people are doing it, or number of individuals are doing, I can't name them, that again, the whole offset has the whole spectrum of things that you have to do there. Pick up the forest-based offset there. So till the plantation, or till 4 years of sustaining that particular plantation, that is a forestation project of yours, and you can fund it through your CSR.
Okay.
You close it there, you sign a MOU with the organization who will do the plantation, you close it there. After that, parallelly, you can start doing registration, review, feasibility assessment, calculating the credit and all, and banking aid. All these are business-related costs there. So that particular cost are again signed with another vendor or with another agency there. That's a separate PO that you will be generating. That is a business cost there, because benefit of this will come back to you there. Don't mix it up. Don't show it to EY as one particular note there, because they'll reject it. They'll say that this is a audit-related compliance there. Keep both the files in two different cupboards there. And two different individuals should have the keys there.
Yeah.
So that one will say कि मुझे तो इतना ही पता था. And दूसरा will say that मेरा यहाँ से शुरू हुआ था. But no one will say कि plantation आया कहाँ से. ठीक है. So that's many of the companies are doing. Otherwise, you take it true-blood and pure-bred offset program, you can't do it through CSR.
Yeah.
Now you can go back and tell Google that Anurag answered it.
Thank you so much.
There's one last question here.
He has the mic there, Chief, now. You'll meet
And
me
we have
after
to
this
finish.
particular thing.
Yeah.
I'll answer you.
That's the last question.
So you'll have to on the mic.
This is Tenzin. There's a very interesting article which I saw in news, I think 3 weeks ago, where HDFC, Ergo and Tata Cancer Institute, together came to create a bond, which was a non-interest bearing bond. So someone invests, he gets the principal back, and interest earnings are going towards the cancer treatment of some BPL. So what I found interesting was, for example, we have spoken a lot about governing, but if you focus more on governance part, so for example, CSR spend, as you know, it's already less. So, and a lot of these initiatives I have seen, I also come from a rural, I've seen rural area to some extent, that things are happening, but, maybe that audit aspect is not there, where a lot of wastage is there. So if CSR spend focuses more on that, so I just wanted to know your views,
I agree with you on that particular thing. That's where if I go back to my first position, which I said that to do some of the work like that, you require CSR heads who are more enlightened, CSR heads who have the influencing power with their board there, CSR heads who can then sit with their CEOs and talk to their board member directly on first-person name basis there. And that we do not have too many CSR heads who can do that particular thing.
Yeah.
How many CSR heads that, and I can count them on fingers, sir, who are really powerful voice within their own organization there. How many CSR heads will say that they are known in their particular organization there? You will not have too many people there with that particular stature there. Don't get, I'll say, influenced by their LinkedIn posts and all. LinkedIn posts, 75% is all fake there. The go by and the moment I know that the SDFC CSR person is there in this particular room itself, and very compassionate individual. You require people who can plan out those activities there. And it requires huge amount of effort there. You need businesses to get involved, become integral part of the CSR design workshop there. The moment they are part of the design thinking approach there with the CSR, then only they'll bring in their business acumen there. Otherwise, business will go on left, CSR will take the right turn. Both these lines will never meet there. And that's the reason why some of these innovative mechanisms will never happen there. The moment you ask them, both of them to interact together, there are wiser soul in both the sides there, which has the potential to create a major watershed in the CSR history there. And that's what has happened there. Very innovative agenda there. There are some, I'm sure there are auditable concern and audit related concern there in that particular approach. But I'm 100% sure that these guys must have thought through the whole approach there, and we'll be seeing more of this kind in coming future, because I do see greater alignment happening with businesses these days on CSR.
This is just the beginning of, like I said, sustainable finance, and I mean globally we've seen such transactions. I know that DBS has launched some ESG-linked derivatives which have a very similar component. See, because the big question is, if I'm lending money to, say, Capgemini, and they've taken targets on net zero, if they meet their targets, then I have to give them an incentive. Yeah. But if I give them an incentive, that means the interest rate that I get will lower, and it'll be cut from my books, right? If I'm charging 8%, if they're doing well and they meet their targets, then I have to give them, say, you know what, 1% discount on your interest. Who's going to fund that? And that's where the foundation and the philanthropy angle comes in, that, hey, if you meet your targets, then we will allocate a certain amount of our foundation to the social causes that you. So there's a lot of this financial engineering in a different way that's happening, which frankly, as long as it's going in the right direction, it's auditable, like Sir said, it should have an impact, it's good to go. I think we're all going in the right direction.
Plus, if there are concerns there is one particular word that I always use whenever I get caught by audit doing some of these smart things. Okay, sir, it will never happen again. That's the smartest word that you use, where you'll say that, okay, sir, it will never happen again, and then you can move out from the room there. Because you can't fight with them. You know that you have committed a mistake as far the rules of the games are concerned. But next time, agli baar dusra auditor hoega. We'll make some other mistake there. Time is up.
All right. Yes.
I wish that this didn't have to end. But on that note, if a fireside chat can actually light fire within us, I think it's done its job. A huge round of applause for Sir for being so candid about so many pillars.